Hi, I'm Leah.
I'm Victoria.
I'm Chelsea.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Melissa.
And this is the group chat.
Make sure you guys...
It's the group chat.
Make sure you guys check us out every Sunday at 7 p.m. everywhere you listen to podcasts, on YouTube. And just to kick off this episode, we want to say thank you for tuning in. And we're going to kick it over to Alyssa to talk about our drink chat today.
Okay, guys. So a drink chat today is going to be a little bit different than what you guys are used to because us as a collective, we kind of discussed it and we felt that for this topic, we all wanted to kind of come into it with a sober and clear mind. And so we decided to just do regular water based on the importance of this topic to all of us. And with that being said, I guess I will introduce the topic. So this week, in honor of Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, we decided that we wanted to do an episode focusing in on mental health, especially anxiety. We're going to kind of explain to you guys what our research has shown about anxiety and then give you guys some personal accounts of our struggles with anxiety and our coping mechanisms. But before we get started, we do want to put a public service announcement out there that none of us are mental health experts. This information, however, has been given to us by a mental health expert and a pretty good source. We're also going to try to give you guys some resources at the end of this episode so that if you are struggling with any mental health issues or crises, you know where to go. And you guys can always drop some comments below to kind of, spread the knowledge and the wealth. So pull up my notes. So my mom is a mental health therapist, a licensed mental health counselor, and she was able to give us some information about anxiety and how it kind of presents itself in adults. I am a special education teacher, and so I was able to collaborate with her, and a lot of the ways that it presents itself in adults is also how it presents itself in adolescents and in children. So anxiety is defined as a mental health disorder characterized by feelings of worry, anxiety, or fear that are strong enough to interfere with one's daily activities. Examples can be anything from panic attacks to obsessive compulsive disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. It normally presents itself with hypervigilance, irritability or restlessness, lack of concentration, racing thoughts, unwanted thoughts, fatigue, and it also can look as if it's excessive worry, fear, impending doom, insomnia. You can have palpitations or trembling when you are having an anxiety attack. And different types of anxiety include agoraphobia. What's going on with me today? Thank you. Agoraphobia, anxiety disorder due to medical conditions, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, separation anxiety, social anxiety, specific phobias, substance-induced anxiety, and it can be caused by any medical issues or any stressful situations that you are put into. So that is the definition and kind of how it presents. Do any of you guys want to share your own experiences with anxiety?
I mean, I think I'll start. So for a while, to be honest, I've never spoken to a therapist about it. And I know some of us here have, and we can kind of get to that later. But for a while, it was like the way it works for me personally, my brain just goes to worst case scenario of literally everything. Like anything, like we could sitting in this room, like I'm just thinking about, what if this falls? What if this happens and somebody gets hurt? And, what if, the candle lights the place on fire? Like that's just how it works for me. And I cannot focus on certain things. And for a while, I'm just like, I just worry about everything and I just want everything to be okay. But it impedes on how I handle my daily life, you know? And for a while I'm like, what is happening? But I feel like, not that I'm self-diagnosed, but I don't get attacks. It's just, it hits in waves and in certain situations for me, but I don't, I try to handle it the way that I do. And for me, that just feel like that's just trying to calm myself down. And it helps that there's people around me who, know what's happening and try to calm it down. But like I said, most of the time it's really me in my head talking to my thoughts about like, Chelsea, you're bugging out, like just calm down. But it just like, I'm unable to focus on things. And, like I'm just thinking about worst case scenario. It's hard to look at the positives of certain situations because you're just thinking about all the negative stuff that can really just happen that doesn't even make sense most of the time. Like it really just doesn't make sense, but it's what's going through your head and you're just trying to figure out why. So I feel like that's, for me, it just took me a while to get there. Like, this is actually a thing,
So for me, I actually have anxiety, like diagnosed by an actual healthcare provider. And like Chelsea said, you always think of what if. Like I remember at one point, and this is literally like worst case scenario. I would literally be driving and I'm like, oh my God, but what if the car in front of me flips and it causes an accident and then I'm just driving and then boom, I'm gonna get into a car accident. And it's like a lot of what if thoughts. It's always the worst case scenario that probably won't happen, 9 10 out of 10 won't happen. But I personally have experienced anxiety attacks. And for the longest time, like growing up, you always think what if. I guess like it's like, what is it called? Not narcissistic, like pessimistic tendencies. Like, like that's what they call it. But in college, I had my first anxiety attack. And bro, that stuff is scary. You feel like you're gonna die. I was like stumbling around. I was like, oh my God, I can't breathe. And it's like, what the hell is really going on? And then you realize, oh shoot, you really just got into your head over nothing. Like I had, like Alyssa said, it presents in so many different ways, like PTSD and stuff like that. I'm not gonna get too deep into what caused it, but I guess saying what caused it, we'll get deep into it. But basically, I was in a class and the film that we were watching, there was a bomb that was dropped on a city. And I literally like fell out. I had to leave. And like my friend I went to college with like found me in the floor because I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think that I would have that type of reaction. But it literally hits you out of nowhere. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, it definitely does. Well, these are my sisters, so they know. I was formally diagnosed with anxiety when I was 15, going on 16. And ever since then, it's been like a constant battle for me. I don't want to be the one to cry. So my anxiety was triggered when my grandfather died, and it started off as separation anxiety is what the psychologist classified it as. But since then, it definitely has progressed into more of like a panic anxiety disorder. And basically what that means is like exactly what you guys are displaying. Like if I can't get in contact with my mom and I call her like twice, automatically like the impending doom feeling just provokes itself. And then I will literally send myself into a tizzy for hours where I can't bring it back. And so my struggle with anxiety has been something that has impeded on my relationships. It definitely makes my life a little bit more difficult because there are some days that, and when we were planning, I think I had mentioned this, like there are some days that with my anxiety, you wake up and you honestly have no idea what's making you feel anxious. Yeah. you just wake up and you're like, something feels off, and it'll, kind of off center me for a couple of days. It's not something for me that it's momentary and I can just move past it in a couple of hours or in a couple of minutes. Sometimes it takes days. Sometimes it takes a week. There have been months where I felt extremely anxious. It didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter if I took my medication that the doctor prescribed to me. It just, I was having, a moment. And And so for me, that's what my experience with anxiety is, without really getting like too deep, like Vicky said, into it. But it's definitely a constant battle. It's a constant something that I'm always working on how I can, help myself, learning new ways to cope. I think that coping mechanisms, when you have anxiety and learning what your coping mechanism is, it is one of the most valuable things that I have taken away from my experiences and taken away from my therapy, is that I had to learn how to cope with it. Mm-hmm. And it couldn't be self-medicating. It couldn't be, indulging in stuff that is not solving the problem, but only making the problem feel like a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I had to learn how to cope. And so that's, my little experience. I don't know if Leah and Katie want to share.
I mean, I feel like I definitely, like, I'm not diagnosed by a doctor or medical professional, but I definitely have some sort of type of an anxiety. Mm-hmm. Like, I do go through, like, the panic anxieties where, like, everything just feels like the end of the world, mm-hmm. and, like, everything just going at, like, rapid speed. Mm-hmm. And, like, trying to figure out, like, how to, like, certain, like, I'll go through certain phases. Like, it's not just one type. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll go through a phase where, like, I'm having, like, the panic ones. Mm. And then I'll just go through phases where, like, I'm just stressing about, like, everything. Like, I think of every, like, bad case scenario, like Chelsea. But then, like, then I'll go through the panic ones. And, like, it just bounces back and forth.
I am not, diagnosed or anything. But you ever, like, have a moment where you're going through your day, you're having a rough day, and then it's like one measly little thing that just sets you over the edge. Yeah. And it's like, it could be like you dropped your phone, and then you're just like, oh my God, like, now everything starts going downhill. You're having the worst day ever. And I think the best thing to do is, as far as, handling it, is accepting it. I feel like a lot of people, when they're in denial about it, it's like you're pushing against it, and now, you're trying to find other ways to deal with something that you're not even sure about. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like when you accept it and, you do things to, cope with it better, you'll have better outcomes, in the future. So if you're ever in another situation previous to the other one, you don't completely freak out.
So in terms of accepting it, how do you guys feel about seeking help for it and or going on medication for it?
I feel like, so for me, like I said before, I've never spoken to a professional about it, mm-hmm. but for a while, not only accepting it, but for me to understand what it is. And like, I can't fully understand it because, again, I'm not a medical professional. So once I talk to somebody, it'll become more clear for me. But just getting to the point where you realize that this is like a thing for me, like it's a cycle of this keeps happening, not just a one and done type of thing. And then you realize, okay, maybe this is, whatever. And I did like everybody does, you go to Google, but, but just getting there to realize that there is a word for the definition that you have, mm-hmm. if that makes sense. Yeah. And I feel like now that I'm a mom, I feel like I'm a cry, but I feel like, cause like, honestly, I hate to leave her cause my anxiety of like, whoever is watching her, whether it be her father, like I feel like, anything could happen. She could slip, she could hit her head, she could, like, you never know. Mm-hmm. So I feel like at this point in my life is when I'm going to seek professional help because I cannot proceed mm-hmm. like on like a negative path with like I can't enjoy specific things with my kid because I'm just thinking of all the negative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So I was going to say, I completely agree, like, as far as making sure. I think that the best way to deal with any mental illness or mental health crisis is to seek professional help. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love my family. I love my friends. And they are always a sound source of, people that I can vent to. But I'm I'm like the biggest advocate for therapy. I'm the biggest advocate for not only therapy like by yourself, but also family therapy, couples therapy, and being able to have that kind of like bipartisan party in the room who is non-judgmental, who you can speak to. And like I said, that will teach you those coping mechanisms, that will teach you how, or like help you to figure out like what are your triggers, what are the things that make you begin to feel this way. Is it a certain time of the year? Is it a certain month? Is it a certain day? Is it a certain time of the day? Is it when you're driving? Is it when you're about to go to bed? Like they really my therapist has helped me kind of figure it out. Like I already know September is a hard month for me. That's the month my grandfather died. March is a hard month for me. That's the month that I lost the baby. So I already know that that's like, without even thinking about the situation, those are just months that are hard for me. And my anxiety is a little bit worse around those times. And I just have to kind of be kind to myself and really give myself, you know, that space that I need from family, friends, whoever it might be, to kind of cope with what I'm dealing with. And that was something that I learned through therapy. But at the same time, I did come from a Caribbean household where therapy is not necessarily it's not something that's normalized in a Caribbean home. They don't want you to go to therapy. You crazy, you're mad, your Ed broke up.
You're supposed to only talk to your family and
pray
leave it at
and
that.
pray about it. I don't get me wrong. I pray every day. I pray multiple times a day. I am, you know, I always say I'm a sipping Christian, but I'm a Christian. And I feel like God put people in the position that they're in to help you through those battles. And it's not a strike at my faith because I sought out help for me to get past certain trials and tribulations. Because sometimes getting on your knees and praying, it helps, but it's not the be all and end all and cure. You have to do the work afterward. And part of my work is to go seek the counseling that I needed to seek. With my family, my mother became a mental health specialist because it was something that she noticed presented itself in her child, and she did not understand it. My mother, my grandparents, they are, like I said, Christian, Caribbean. They never looked at mental illness as like something that was like this big issue that could happen, or like they never took it as seriously as they should have. And I think that when I was at like an all-time low and my mom was genuinely afraid, like, okay, I don't know what this is, I don't know how to deal with it, that's when she kind of shifted her mentality on therapy and counseling and medicine for anxiety, because she genuinely wanted to make sure that her child survived that time. Because nobody wants to find their child laid out in a bed, you know, drugged or whatever the case may be, because they're at that low. So that's how, you know, the shift happened in my family about therapy and mental illness. But that's just my experience.
Well, when I was little, I really don't want to get that deep, but I guess I'll go there because it would just make sense. My mom passed. I really don't want to cry.
If you cry, I'm going to cry too. We'll all be crying.
I already started.
I didn't go have to cut the camera.
My mom passed in 9/11, so
We don't have no tissues.
I didn't say the story. But like as a kid, I went through therapy because it was just something that like my parents thought was necessary. And growing up, it was just like, okay, well, did this work? Did it not work? I don't think it worked because I still have anxiety. But like I have siblings now who, you know, everybody got a little bit of anxiety. Just like look at the past year that we lived through, you know, fear of the unknown. And it's like seeing, thank you. Just like seeing, you know, I've been through it when I was a child, and then, you know, I have younger siblings now, and you see like, you know, like I come from a Caribbean family too, and it's the same thing. Like you only supposed to talk to your family about your issues, go to church and pray. If you have an issue, what you mad for, what you sad about, you know, like nothing could be wrong because you have everything for you, even if you're not allotted everything. But like I was saying, like having siblings, I think, you know, my parents, there was a shift in it because it's like, okay, well, you know, this child went through this. Now we're seeing another child go through it. Okay, maybe it's time to go get help. And it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to actually say, okay, well, you're gonna go get help. Like, I went to school for, not medicine, but I was a psych major, and then I went through nursing school. And honestly, like, you know, you learn about all this medication. And honestly, learning about it, I'm like, I always said, you know, if I ever went on medication, like if I was ever prescribed like anxiety medication, I wouldn't want to take it because it doesn't fix what it is. But truthfully, like once I decided, okay, let me try this, it actually helped. And I feel like that stigma about like, you can't go get help. You can't say that you're not okay. You can't be medicated in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Like people really need to get that out of their head.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think there's a huge difference between, sometimes I think people look at medication and they automatically think, I can give myself something that's going to make stuff. Let me not say, I'm not trying to that's going to make it better. Yeah. With my anxiety medication, I personally am not, I'm not a consistent, I should be, but I don't take my anxiety medication consistently because to me, I feel more numb when I take it. And when I'm having an anxiety attack, that's what I want. Like, you don't want to feel that anxiousness. But when I take it consistently, my experience is that I'm not myself. Like the person who's going to laugh and joke with you, the person who's always up here cutting jokes, that's not me when I take my anxiety medication. That's my personal experience, not to say don't do it. Cause like Vicky said,
like I take it and I actually like it. I not like I like it. don't abuse it. But like I see the benefits of it. You know, like I take half of what I'm prescribed because if I really want to, like you said, get numb and knock myself out, I'll take the whole thing. But you want to be a functioning person.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, like that was like I've always like gone back and forth whether like to actually like go see somebody to like kind of like get a handle on it. But then like in my head, I was always like, no, like I don't want to go on medication though, because like I don't want to be like zoned out or anything. But like there are different levels and there are different types of pills that help for different types of things. Like I've seen multiple people that I know that are on different types of anxiety medicine and like they're completely normal. But like it helps calm them down.
It definitely, I will say when I'm in my moments, it hands down 150% is the greatest thing that I've ever experienced because you're up here and the anxiety medication kind of makes it like slowly, it's like a gradual.
Check your Apple Watch and your heart rate is low.
No, it's like a gradual release type of situation. But you know, it's important that if you are suffering with any mental illness, whether it be depression, anxiety, anything deeper, bipolar depression, XYZ, that you seek out medical, a medical opinion or a medical help so that you kind of sort of can have that person to guide you. And when you go through a mental health, like what is it called? Like when they like analyze you, it's not coming through my
evaluation.
Yes, when you're going through your mental health evaluation and you're diagnosed formally, and then they give you medication. It's also very important to understand that the first medication they give you might not work, and that doesn't mean give up on the process. This shit don't work. I'm done with it. You have to keep at it. Like I said, it's something that you constantly have to be willing to learn about. It's something that you constantly have to be willing to be open to getting the help. You have to constantly be ready to do the work outside of the therapist's office, to do the work outside of your family and friends, outside of your career, to really better yourself and understand why you have those triggers that you have, or how, like I said, those coping mechanisms. So I don't know if anybody else has a story.
Well, I was just going to ask you guys, just so we have some, things for them to take back. But like, aside from medication, let's like take that off the table for a second. What's like your go to, like, my anxiety is at an all-time high right now, I just want to like calm myself down? Like, what's your best practice to calm yourself down?
If you were experiencing anxiety, like in that moment.
Yes.
Okay.
Prayer for me. And that's not to come at anybody's, you know, your religious preferences, your religious preference. We talking about me. It's prayer. I think my friends have heard me say this. When I'm there, the first thing that I say is peace be still. And then I remind myself that I walk by faith and not by sight.
Yeah.
And that is I have it tattooed on me. It's a constant in the back of my head. You have to step out on the limb and you're walking by this faith that no matter what, God got you and you're going to be okay. There's not a step that I'm going to take in this life that God has not ordained for me to take.
Yeah.
And I think that is my all time, like anytime that something is going on in my life, I always know that at the end of the day, God put that in my way for me to grow from it, for me to learn to it, for me to, you know, develop as a person. And once I can digest that, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how hard it is, once I digest that I have to walk by that faith that I proclaim so loudly and boldly, I start to feel better. So that's my go-to for, you know, my coping.
I personally do two things. One, I try to do like the breathing exercises to try to like calm myself down. And then once like I kind of like get to like a little bit better space, what I've been mostly doing for like, especially for like the last couple months, I go to Orange Theory a lot and I work out my anxiety through my workouts. Mm-hmm. Shout out to OTF Melville. But like I found like the more I go, the more controlled I am. Because like even like yesterday, like I was at like an all-time high, like literally like about to break down. And then I woke up extra early this morning and like I went and like I was able to sort of ground myself again. I mean, it went back up, but like I was able to like gather myself again so that way like I can keep going on about my day and like go and do the things that I have to do.
100%.
I feel like for me, to be honest, I'm still finding ways to cope. And I feel like it takes a while to get to a space where you have that one thing, like you have prayer, you have OTF, and, you know, like I feel like it takes a while to get to the place where you can find that thing that actually genuinely calms you down. Now that I have a kid, and I don't want to cry again because every time I talk about her, I start to cry. But I feel like just she brings me back to like, this is my life, and whatever goes wrong is like, again, like you said, it's going to happen regardless. Yeah. I cannot harp over things that I literally cannot control because it's affecting nobody else but myself. And why am I doing that to myself? So I feel like just like spending time with her and just being with her and, you know, my family, my boyfriend is amazing. And I, again, another note, I feel like that's very important when you have people who surround you that understand how you handle your anxiety and how you handle certain situations involving that. But I feel like, yeah, just being around my family kind of brings me back to like, everything is okay. So I feel like that's my thing.
So to piggyback off what Chelsea said about finding what calms you down. I think there was a plethora of things that I used to do to calm me down. Breathing exercises used to work for me. Until I started hyperventilating. And then I had a panic attack. We did boxing for a little while. That was really good. That goes, you know, hand in hand with what Katie said. But I think now my thing when I get anxious, I'm also a Christian. I turn on the radio to K-Love. It's like this Christian radio station. And literally they play the same 10 songs all day. And I know all the words to all 10 songs. And I will literally just blast that and go about my day, and my day is 10 times better. I put it on at work. I put it in the car going to work, coming back home, and literally it just, like for me, it's like, okay, God put this in my life for whatever reason. Sometimes you look up at God and you're like, yo, bro, why? Why? But then you
At God, why?
But then you realize, like, you know, this is my outlet. This is, you know, you walk by faith, not by sight. And like you literally, it just gives you a calming presence that it'll all be all right. And like you said too, you can't just harp over something that you have no control about. 'Cause at the end of the day, it's like, this is going to make you stronger. Like you were never handed anything that you can't come out of.
Yeah.
100%.
So me, to piggyback off of what Katie and Vicky said, I would box. So I would physically hit things.
In a controlled environment.
Yes, in a controlled environment. That always helped. That also helped me with my breathing, being able to be in a situation and being on 10 and being able to calm myself down to back to 1, there's that. And then, music is also very helpful. Sometimes you're having a rough day, instead of, laying there like a little potato, kind of just putting on some like music to pick yourself up, sometimes it's good. I will personally start cleaning, getting some light in the room, a good smelling candle, kind of just rearranging, everything in your life to make sure that mentally, you're feeling much better about things. So I think we have a couple things to shout out. Chelsea?
Shout out Sink or Swim. This is from the OG collection, but you can't get that no more. But stay tuned for the next drop coming very, very soon. It is a clothing line started by friends of ours, my boyfriend included. But I think I wore it today because I think it really goes with, like we're saying, you only have 2 options. You really only have 2 options in life. It's either sink or swim. And I feel like how you cope with the things that are being thrown at you is dependent on which option you're going to pick. Yeah. So shop sinkorswim.com.
Yeah. And I just wanted to shout out and thank Peaceful Counseling in Brooklyn, New York, for all of their helpful information that they provided for us this week about anxiety. We are going to, continue this conversation because I think that it's extremely important to kind of destigmatize mental illness and, make mental health conversations something that's much more common and much more open, because I feel like it's therapeutic in itself to talk about the fact that you're, sometimes you're not okay.
Yeah. And I feel like, sorry to cut you off, but I feel like going off of what Vicky said earlier about like the year that we've all had, I feel like this is at a point where, like, honestly, if you're not feeling something like in your head from the year that we had, whether it be anxiety, depression, like genuinely, I think everybody is experiencing an ounce of it. Yeah. And even if it's literally just that ounce, I believe, like, still just seek someone to speak to, because everybody understands. Like, even if nobody understands, it's still something that's happening to you. So for yourself, just speak to someone. There's so many resources that Alyssa will touch on and will post as well. But there's so many resources. And again, after this year, please, because you don't want to continue to carry it on into your life further. We kind of want to put this year behind us and move forward to bigger, better things and healthier minds, healthier lives, everything like that. So seek some help.
Yeah. So as we begin to wrap up this conversation in this week's episode with you guys, we are going to post a resource guide. If you're in the New York City area, this will be definitely beneficial to you, as it is mental health counseling that's available. Some of them you don't even need insurance to go to. A lot of them are minority owned and ran. So if that's something that you are concerned about, I am trying to provide you guys with some stuff that, you talk to people who look like you. Let's just be honest, because sometimes the anxiety of being a Black man or being a Black woman is something that's not easily translated to somebody who does not understand that anxiety. Yeah. And I think that this year, minority people had a lot of trauma happen, and it's a PTSD that sometimes people who don't also feel that might not understand. So I know that that's important. We are going to provide you guys some resources. Should I also announce our little break right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
So I think all of us have a lot going on right now. Vicky is about to do the thing. She got some stuff coming up. We have our beautiful niece is turning 1. Katie, everybody has stuff. Leah's going, she has work. We all are dealing with a lot. And for our mental health and wellness, we are going to take a minor hiatus for about 3 to 4 weeks. And we will be bringing you guys all new episodes the first week of July. So make sure that you catch up on the 4 previous episodes so that when we come back in July, we are refreshed. And I mean, it's going to be summertime. We trying to
Some
show
of us
some
might be.
Hot girl summer.
We're going to be hot girl summering it up. Make sure that you go to Instagram and you give us some topics that you guys want us to discuss when we come back from our minor. And it's very minor, so don't start, leaving us.
Don't forget about us.
Don't find them
if you're on
Don't
Instagram,
leave.
watch our story.
Hiatus.
We'll keep you updated.
Yeah.
You might
Yes.
get some of our everyday life.
Yes,
on there.
we're still going to be posting. It just won't be from, we won't be
from
having
here.
a formal podcast. We will show you guys some of our personal life, some of the things that we are dealing with for the next month since it's so busy. I'm very proud of us. I just wanted to say that we made it to episode 5.
Yeah.
And honestly, when we brought this idea up, I never honestly
That it was actually good.
I never
Let
thought
alone
that we would
episode
get
5.
here. So we're, coming to episode 5 and we're so excited about it.
Pause. Just want to say, remember how I was finding something to deal with it? This honestly helps because no matter what the topic is, it's just like, I mean, it helps that it's y'all too, but you guys too. But it's just a conversation where we could just sit down and just be open with each other and just talk. And I feel like that is very important, and that calms me down because I don't see y'all every day. So it's like
Laugh, cry.
we get
enjoy
together
each other's
and
company.
we're able to just be with each other and be happy and fun. I mean, this wasn't like a woo episode, but we were still all able to talk about our experiences and our story. I feel like honestly, as a group, we chit chat here and there about these little things, but we've never had this open conversation about this topic. So,
So we want to thank you guys for helping us to get to episode number 5. Like I said, please make sure that you tell us what you want to hear from us after our hiatus, because I feel like it's summertime, so it's gonna be like extra spicy when we get back. It's gonna be, we're gonna come
Tell
here
us
like
what
hot
you
girls.
want to see
yeah.
for Hot Girl Summer.
But my man gonna pick me up after. It's still hot girl summer.
She the only one. She the only one that man can pick her up afterward. Remember that we are going to, when we return, we're going to be dropping every Sunday at 7 p.m. After that, is that all that we have to say?
I think
I think so.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.